We'll go with this. Man, does it feel weird to be back doing this. For a bit of perspective, I'm recording this in October of 2024. And the last one that I did was... give me a moment, I will let you know, because I have that file right here. That was done in freaking March of 2023. Wrap your head around that for a second. Fuck, over a year and a half. Well, no, yeah, about a year and a half to get back to this. Which is hilarious because from my perspective, I'm still a good solid 6 months away from needing to get back to this. As I stated all the way back in the intro video, in the text disclaimer, these videos were never supposed to take this long to see the light of day. But they did. They have, and this is unironically the first time I'm recording post when these started going live. And obviously I have not gotten any comments or anything because nobody watches these damn things. Why would people watch an idiot who sits here in front of his computer that is in desperate need of a new power supply? Hey, why would somebody watch some idiot sit here and yap about, anime and video games and shit like that? Especially something dumb like Yu-Gi-Oh! I should review a real anime like, I don't know, Berserk, and then I can watch a series go be brutally violent and end in tentacle porn. Sadly, that's only a slight exaggeration. Never been a fan of Berserk, so don't request it. Oh, and I just realized I never jotted down my preference points. Not the first time that I have encountered that. All 4 of these episodes easily got points in the sub, which means the sub is now officially has double the points of the dub. Which is funny because that actually means that I have literally come to the conclusion. I shouldn't say conclusion, but like I actually had that thought of should I even continue looking at the dub? Like, should I just forego the dub and just meh? But the whole point of this project was to examine both the sub and the dub. And I stated that there was only one series that I was going to cut it off and abort it. And that, for the record, that is Zexal, or Zale if you prefer. I have no intention of covering the dub of Zale for incredibly obvious reasons, and I can turn my monitor off now. I have no intention to cover the dub of Zale whatsoever. There is no reason for me to cover the dub of Zale. To be blunt with you, I think covering the dub of Zale would be it'd be more than I can take, because even back when I was that would be teenager at this point. Even as a teenager, I looked at the Zexal. I looked at Zexal. That's a way to put it. Zale for the sub, Zexal for the dub. I looked at Zexal and I was like, this is garbage. Like, this is like one of the worst things. Now, whether or not that means Sale itself is a steaming pile of goat shit, well, that's why I want to examine the Japanese version, right? Even though God knows what I saw of Arc 5 didn't impress me, but that's beside the point. And then obviously Vrains I'll just do in the sub because I've seen the biggest change that 4K media did to the dub of Vrains, and it baffles me. What? Like, they changed the entire meaning of an entire scene, and I mean more so in just this, the key card way. Like, they literally changed the dialogue so that it means something completely different, and it's like, wow, what the hell? You know? Yes, teach kids to be assholes in this day and age is pretty much the gist of it. So, I've got just over 2 pages of notes, and yeah, the sub easily got 4 points, as I said, because I hated trying to watch this thing in the dub. It was painful. I have a note here on my dub notes that is a timestamp. 4 minutes and 36 seconds. That was what the timer on the Crunchyroll time bar said when I looked at it because I paused because and that was the point when I realized is that not only was the sub of part 1 specifically superior, but it was overwhelmingly superior. In the first 3 minutes of the episode, because keep in mind you gotta account a minute and a half for the theme song for Shuffle, in about 3 minutes, and it's Heartless Duel Yugi versus Jonouchi had completely just curb stomped the dub. So let's talk about expectations for a second before we really dive into this, shall we? My expectations of this 4-parter was that this was going to be the most pointless 4-parter in the entire thing. I still kind of think you could try. Okay, let me put it to you this way. When it comes to the dub, you could, in my opinion, you could literally just tweak the next episode. Tweak episode 79, episode 79, and just tweak that one a little bit. And you could literally ignore this 4-parter. But here's the thing. I can't, in good consciousness, having seen the sub now, say that. I can't say that this is a pointless 4-parter anymore. Because it's not. So you're probably now, because my original thinking was, oh, we have to prove the friendship of Yugi and Joey, and that pisses me off, and that just pissed me off because I was like, we're wasting time. Here's the funny thing, though. The dub does not get the point of Merrick's brainwashing. Because the way that Merrick does things in the dub is exactly what he did with strings. I have control over your mind. I will talk through you. It's the Bandit Keith thing. Excuse me. It's the whole Bandit Keith thing. That's not what this is. Now, I have talked about how a piece of me being planted in the heart thing is just so stupid when it came to the full control of Seeker, right? of the Exodia Rare Hunter. And I stand behind that statement. I thought that was just dumb. But I like the idea that it's more about that the control is more about suggestion than anything else. That it's actually full on brainwashing. In other words, Joey has been conditioned. You ever seen the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, The Mind's Eye, the one where Geordi LaForge, ironically there. Anyways, when the episode where Geordi LaForge is mind controlled by Romulans, that it's that kind of it is that degree of mind control. It's that kind of mind control. He more directly mind controls Anzu, but with Jonouchi, he's actually just kind of he's used his Millennium Rod to rewrite Jonouchi's personality, and that is so much better. Like that is just insanely better. And I think that's kind of part of the reason why I hate it in the dub, because in the dub, it's just standard brainwashing. I know you're in there, I'll get you out of there, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is that what Yugi is fighting in the sub is not Merrick. Merrick is in the driver's seat. No, what he's actually fighting, what you could honestly argue he's fighting here, is Dark Joey, Dark Jonouchi, Urchi, Urchi. I mean, I guess because Dark Yugi, and Dark Eric Merrick and all that shit. So let's come up with a different word. Let's call it Killer Jonouchi. Hey, murder. No, you know what? We'll call him Joey the. We'll call the evil version of Joey the Ripper. That's what we'll call him. Does it make any sense? No, but it's what I'm choosing to call him. Because the idea here is that this is an evil Joey. This is a Joey whose heart is corrupted by darkness, kind of thing. Right? Which is funny because my biggest problem with the dub was the repetition, and then Merrick constantly in the sub is saying kill, 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 crush him, crush him, crush him, crush him, and it's like, oh my God, Merrick, shut up, you know. But to be fair, that is part of the brainwashing. Excuse me. But what I like about the reason I like this though is that it doesn't feel out of place this time. It feels more like it's more about trying to get Joey to come back to his senses and break through the brainwashing. Because the way Joey is that he truly believes that Yugi is his enemy, that he wants to kill Yugi and all this other shit. But that's because of what Merrick has done to him. Because like I said, Merrick has rewritten his personality. It is still a form of mind control, and he still has control, and he's still whispering in his ear, kind of thing. But but it's more about the suggestion, and more of just kind of like Merrick being the Garneth to Joey's Harden, if you understand the distinction. Fitting that Steve just finished streaming New Mystery: The Emblem 2 weeks ago now. Well, about a week and a half ago from my perspective, you know. But I digress. So, yeah, I do not have anything much to say about. I don't really have anything other than uh than that. But I'm actually going to add an addendum to that note. Which is funny because there's one more thing before we actually just start talking about the sub proper hopper. I have a note in my dub notes about the setup just taking too damn long, right? Well, the setup takes about as long in the sub, but it doesn't feel like it, you know? I actually jotted that down as a note. Where is that? Yeah, it's the last note I made about part 1. The setup does not feel long in the sub. It is still most of part 1, but it but it doesn't feel like it because there's more intrigue going on. There's more interesting lines. There's more intriguing ideas. I always hated this episode in the dub, and yet in the sub, it's like, huh. I actually found myself kind of getting into the episode, especially in regards to Seto, but we'll get to that in a bit. Is there anything else I want to talk about? The dub makes things inconsistent with its subtractions. That's nothing too thing. Ah, so I actually have a note in both. I have a note about the timer for the the timer on the anchor in both versions. The first is the timer just makes no sense because of how much time has passed as in the dub, because in the dub, like, with the first time they ever bring up that the timer they show the timer outside of the initial countdown starting. In the dub, the timer is set for an hour. In the sub, it's set for 40 minutes. Now, the reason I say that is that around the 21-minute mark is when we first see the timer again after it started in both versions, but it makes way more sense for 19 minutes to have passed instead of 39 minutes. And that's all I really wanted to say about that, because oh my god, that was just wow. How the hell do you screw that up? You know? So I've talked about the brainwashing making more sense in the sub. Excuse me. I'm recovering from a cold, so forgive me. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to bitch about for the dub before we just get into it? I guess I could talk about how this one has the most changes out of any episode so far, or at the very least, it has the most noticeable and egregious changes. Like, so many changes that you just have to wonder, what the fuck were they thinking? I've already mentioned the timer on the anchor. They literally remove things that Seto says from the dub to make Kaiba look like more of an asshole. They It's a whole lot of just what the hell. Some of it makes sense. Like, we actually see Honda full on fight people in this thing. But otherwise, yeah, no. It just really bugs me. So let's just get into the episodes proper, shall we? And from here on out, I'm not going to be talking about the dub too much. The dub is dumb. Moving on. So right off the bat, with Odeon, aka Rashid, talking to Merrick. Herrick, there's a couple of interesting points that I actually paused to jot down the notes for. Uh, Merrick in the sub mentions Odeon's trap strategies and the whole you cannot betray. That Odeon is basically physically incapable of betraying Merrick, which actually makes a degree of sense for some later stuff, but that's for future stuff. Then in Seto kind of lays into, well, it's a Tem at that point, lays into a Tem a little bit. Because a Tem went on and on during the Loomis and Umbra duel about teamwork, 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 teamwork. And Yugioh and Tem is just like, I don't think Jonouchi will be brainwashed already. And Seto calls that naive. And basically basically tells him that in this upcoming battle, you might actually end up having to fight Joey. So what will you do when you can't rely on teamwork? It's a very interesting thing. Now, he obviously says it in a very smug way. Just look at the way his face is drawn, but it's an interesting idea. So, in the sub, Seto also affirms that he was right. Merrick did actually brainwash Jonouchi. So, there you go. Other than it's like this is really where asshole Kaiba is just on full tilt to the point of insanity in the dub, which is just oof. Sorry, I know I'm trying not to mention it too much, but yeah. So then Atem tries to appeal to Jonouchi's pride, which is kind of interesting. So then the anchor thing is explained. They're shackled to an anchor. Jonouchi has a burn deck. More on that in a minute. And they've got a 40-minute time limit. If there's no winner, both of them get dragged into the ocean. When one lowers the opponent's life points to 0, their key is revealed. They can unlock their shackles. Any attempt to stop the duel, well, if you're fine with killing Anzu, go for it. Which is something Seto is not all for, by the way. I know technically by proxy Kaiba isn't, but it's still like, what the hell? You know? But Kaiba tries to stop it after being goaded by Mokuba. Seto is against this because of his own beliefs. Seto hates this idea. Yeah. Like, just completely, absolutely abhors the idea. Because this is a death match, effectively. And he's not cool with death matches. He literally has a line that says, "This is not a duel. This is not what he calls a duel." And I thought that was such a fascinating line. Like, that line is so fascinating to me. Really, really neat. Neat line. So this is then when, so after the first Hinotama, after the Raigeki Alligator Sword combo, Hinotama is used. And this is where Seto is upset because spell cards that burn are not allowed in this tournament. I believe that he specifically says, spell cards that deal direct damage to the player are not allowed. Now, Des Shinta, in his take on Battle City, on his take on Battle City, Itty video, claimed that the idea was that his headcanon was that the tech wasn't there yet, right? That it was still too taxing on a player's stamina because they hadn't perfected the safeties of the solid vision system yet, not fully, right? Now, the pragmatist in me believes that it's just because Kaiba doesn't want cheap bullshit in his tournament. He wants his Battle City to be Battle City, not Burn City, you know? Now, do I buy that? Yes and no. But at the same time, I kind of do like the idea that Kaiba simultaneously the tech is just not quite there yet. And also because he feels that would just be cheap bullshit, so why do that, Which is hilarious because of a card later, but we'll get there. And by later, I mean Blue Eyes Change the Future episode. So that's pretty much it for part 1. We move on to part 2. Yugi calling out Red Eyes, doing the whole exchange thing and calling out Red Eyes to try and break through Merrick's brainwashing. All good stuff. Courage fight shines way brighter in the sub. This is where I started to notice the music was really kind of enhancing my enjoyment of the episode in the sub. Excuse me. It really was. It really is pretty. It was pretty well done. Pretty well, specifically for music direction. I also like the reason why Joey the Ripper doesn't gives for not taking Red Eyes. I don't need monsters to kill Yugi. Uh huh. Then, when Odeon reports that they haven't been able to capture Serenity because Serenity slash Shizuka, in the sub, Merrick gets mad and he even smacks Odeon. Uses the Millennium Rod to smack Odeon, no less. Excuse me. Also, I like that Honda doesn't lie. that Jonouchi and Anzu are in danger. And then we have one point that is better, one thing that is actually better in the dub. Attrition is better explained. Because it's using the language of the damage the monster took. Which is just, huh? But regardless. So yeah, I haven't really been mentioning it, but Honda has successfully brought Shizuka to the city. They go to try and find the others. Others they get hunted down by the rare hunters. Hunters Duke comes and bails them out. How right? They bump into Mai, who thanks to Tristan beating the shit out of the ghouls, knows that they're at the pier, and then they go to set up that part. So that's all good stuff. And actually, that was all in part 3, so never mind. Kind. So, although I guess actually talking about it, the subplot is actually there because I only have two notes about part 3 in the excuse me in the sub, and that is my hearing where Joey is and immediately going there, and Death Meteor, or just being a very, very nice name for Meteor of Destruction. Same vein as Death Ultima, which is very nice. So this is where I made a note about Meteor of Destruction basically being tremendous fire on steroids, because apparently the reason why Red Eyes was able to bring Joey's life points to 0 is the fact that Joey took 500 damage from Meteor of Destruction. Thanks for failing to explain that, Head Dub. Oh, and then you can also get, and the reason why Joey was able to do that is because Meteor of Destruction lets him control one of Yugi's monsters. I still say the flashbacks are too much, even in the sub. But it is kind of nice, all symbolic, mystical ref panel and all that stuff. It's great. It's a great moment, especially in the sub. I encourage you, if you have not seen this thing in the sub, go watch this 4-parter in the sub. It is so good. It is so good. So good. And of course, Seto doesn't want this to be a really good draw, and of course it's his Blue Eyes. He announces it's Blue Eyes in the dub, which is just dumb. When he uses the helicopter to take out the trap, that was all good stuff. So then Joey basically saves Yugi. Serenity saves Joey. It's better in the sub because there isn't so much superfluous dialogue. And then, of course, Joey's got to despair because he was taken over and blah, 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 right? I do like that everybody berates him for that because it wasn't his fault. He was brainwashed by Merrick. Let's not let the psychotically evil sack of shit hit off the fucking hook. Let's not be like the entire fan base of this series. When we actually kill his dark half, that's when we can let the murderous psychopath off the hook. Because we've redeemed that son of a bitch, And it's the father that's the bitch. I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. And then Seto tells Yugi, tell the other Yugi that I acknowledge, it's referring to a Tem. Tell the other Yugi that I have accepted his answer. And that's it. Whew. This was actually a densely packed sub episode. I really was expecting to just talk about this thing for like 20, maybe 20, maybe 15, 20 minutes and then just leave it alone because it's just like, I hate this episode, moving on. But no, the sub actually gave me meat to chew on, and I'm actually surprised by that. I'm impressed by that. Kudos. Kudos, sub. Kudos. You have earned your 4 points this week. Next week will be interesting. Because next week might be a neither, but not because I don't care for the episode, but because I think the episode will be pretty damn good in both languages. Because next week, Yami Bakura returns. Until next time, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. Duel stand by. I remembered my sign off. Cool. Later. Choo-coo.